Black people have been complaining about the American justice system since the first one of us was illegally or legally sold into slavery. For years, decades, centuries, we've been telling people that the judicial system is biased against black folks, and it could be used pretty much for any which way the person who is pulling the strings of power wants to. White folks didn't believe that. White folks say, oh no, it's a fair system and you should just abide by it. Even as an attorney, I could, for my first years practicing law, some of the first questions that I would ask as my client or ask of my client when I was talking to other lawyers in the firm that I work for is, what color is the client? What county or parish is it in? And who's the judge? And I wasn't asking those questions because, I wanted to know the ethnicity. I wanted to know what the perception of my client would be in that particular form, whether it be by judge or jury, because people harbor their prejudices. But the thing you have to understand is, as far as the judicial system, as far as the judicial system and as far as black people are concerned, we've often been considered the undesirables. We're the ones that the test cases, the guinea pigs, the canaries in the coal mine, if you will. And so whatever they try on us, eventually they're going to try on the people that they find more desirable. In walks Donald Trump. This man has 3 criminal prosecutions in 3 different forms: New York, D.C., and Florida. Top of that, he just got hit with a $500,000 judgment, and before that, he got hit with a $100 million judgment. Now, some people say, or I guess in the words of Paul, I forget the brother's name, man. His name, he was a comedian. I forget the brother's name, but Paul Mooney is his name. He said something about you got to have the right complexion for protection. And black folks read that saying, well, yeah, if you're white, you won't get prosecuted. Obviously not. Look at Donald Trump. I just want you to look at this man. Look at Donald Trump. This is a former president of the United States, billionaire. And because people who are running the system in these respective states have decided they want to get him, they are getting him, irrespective of his color. So what does that tell you? All you white fellas who are listening to me, all you folks of color, all you folks who, the white lights, the folks who come from overseas and say, just do, listen to the white people follow, and, just abide, just comply. We comply, all that, you guys. If they can do this to Donald Trump, and you seeing them do it outright to Donald Trump, one of the whitest white dudes that has ever existed, never has ever denied his whiteness, got all white children, okay? And, and you see what they're doing to him? Where do you think they got their practice from? Where do you think these prosecutors and attorney generals learn? They practice on black people and other so-called undesirables. What black people have been telling you for centuries is true. The legal system is not, justice is not blind in the United States. It's not blind at all. It knows exactly what it's doing. It's just like being a captain of a ship. You can direct that ship any which way you want. The rules are interpretable. I mean, you literally have Alvin Bragg who cobbled together a state law misdemeanor, a state law felony, and a federal law felony, and cobbled them together and decided that was a good idea to go ahead and use that to prosecute Donald Trump. Fannie Willis has taken the RICO action, which was typically originally created to prosecute mafia crime lords who were otherwise difficult to get at because, well, They were insulated because they had people who were performing their criminal acts independently, generally. Men that these mafia bosses had never talked to. So they used the RICO Act. And now you're going to use that for a politician who made some phone calls and sent some people some different places to advocate on his behalf, which may or may not even be a crime. What I'm trying to tell you is those crimes and those allegations are flimsy at best, but black people, black men specifically, have been the victims of these flimsy allegations for decades. It's literally a trumped up charge. It's the irony that these false allegations have been for decades called trumped up charge. These are literally, it gives trumped up charges a whole new definition. Now, the fact that you have black prosecutors and attorney generals involved in this prosecution of this very wealthy white man is just ironic. But what that should let you all know is that, hell, anybody can do it. As long as they have the weight of the government behind them, they can do whatever they want to do for the most part. And so, this should be a wake-up call for white men and white women, whether you're a fan of Donald Trump or not. What black people have been telling you for decades is true. This judicial system is biased. Lady Justice is not blind. She knows exactly what she's doing from the time you get from the time you get questioned by the police to the time you are found guilty of or go to trial and found guilty. It is not a biased system. We have a system where individuals with individual personalities can determine the course of a person's life by taking their freedom. Letitia James campaigned on prosecuting Donald Trump, and the best you could find was that he overestimated the value of his buildings and got some loans. Okay, wow. I'm sure there are lots of other people in New York and around the country who've overestimated the value of their homes to get home loans, to get loans so that they can pay for their children's college tuition, so they could add swimming pools onto their backyards and other things that help increase the value of their house. Of course they've done it. It's almost something that's common knowledge, whether you're involved in the real estate industry or not. It's just common sense. You go high, they go low. You meet somewhere in the middle, and typically that's a fair price. But for anybody who didn't think the judicial system is biased, look at what they're doing to Donald Trump. More recently, look at Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Sean Combs. So apparently these allegations that the DEA and the Justice Department have on Sean P. Diddy Combs were based off lawsuits filed in LA somewhere. Lawsuits, civil lawsuits, where somebody alleged that something happened to somebody. And so now you have the DEA running up in P. Diddy's house in LA and Miami. Now apparently Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, is on his jet flying off to Antigua. And whether you like the man or not, is irrespective, I want you all to see how the justice system is used to prosecute people. Again, it used to be poor people. I mean, when these are two billionaires, I don't know, I believe Sean Combs is a billionaire or near one. These are very rich men, white and black, who are being prosecuted for little or nothing. This is not like, these are not crimes that where somebody was robbed. These are not street crimes. And some of these crimes allegedly happened years ago. As far as P. Diddy, these sexual allegations. And I'm not defending the man. I'm just pointing out how the legal system can be used to bring somebody down when they become a problem. I don't know what P. Diddy has done. I don't know who he's offended. I don't know where the word came from. But for whatever reason, this legal system is being directed at him like a guided missile. Same thing happened with Donald Trump. And because he is such a wealthy man and because he's white, they are pulling out all stops to the point that they are outright with, we're gonna get this guy. We're gonna get this guy. We're gonna prevent him from. We're gonna break him of his wealth. We're gonna put him in prison. We're gonna embarrass him. And I mean, but for the grace of God, or but for his money and and the people of America who support him, he would have been gone. Apparently, his social media site, Truth Social, which he is 58% owner, went public today or yesterday, and now he is about $5 billion richer. So where his worth was $2.5 billion before, now he's worth $5 billion. So, he caught a break. In 6 months, he should, more likely than not, have access to that money. On top of that, the appellate court, seeing how unreasonable the judicial system looks with Judge Ingron, that looks unreasonable. The fact that you, on a bench trial, gave this man issued a $500 million judgment and demanded he come up with a bond for $500 million, $500 million. That just looks egregious on its face. That looks ridiculous on its face, to the point that the appellate court in New York said, no, we're not going to even give you any reasons. We're going to reduce this down to $175 million, because even they know it looks bad. And to the average person, and this is kind of what I want to talk about, as an average citizen in the United States, whether you like people like Donald Trump, whether you like people like Sean Combs or not, the way this justice system is being used so flagrant, it gives credence to everything that every man or woman who has been falsely accused and unjustly prosecuted, it gives credence to what they were saying. This is not just. The system is not just. And so this is an L for the entire legal system. And as a lawyer, and to those out there who are listening, judges, police officers, we're going to have to deal with the ramifications of this overreach. And when I say overreach, that's the mildest word I can use. There's a few other words I would like to use, but overreach is the mildest word I can use. We cannot exist in a system where somebody who doesn't like somebody who happens to be in charge of who gets prosecuted, who gets arrested, and who gets sentenced, because they don't like someone, their enemies, their political enemies are prosecuted. Let's say you got a person that you don't like, a former business associate, and they end up running for judge, or their child or one of their associates runs for prosecutor, or they become a local police officer. And now, because of the blanket power and authority that the judicial system is given just to attack citizens, right down to a police officer. He says you did this, is his word against yours, we're going to defer to the cop. You get in front of a prosecutor, he's going to defer to the cop. Heaven forbid you make an enemy or an adversary out of a local prosecutor, like Bill Cosby, a prosecutor in his, I believe it was Allegheny County. I'm not sure. I know it's in Pennsylvania, but he decided he was going to run on the promises, I'm going to get Bill Cosby. And he got him. He got him on some trumped up charges. It was so bad that when the appellate court, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, got hold of it, they said, we're just going to throw this whole case out. This case is so rotten. There was so many due process violations that we're just going to throw the whole case out. And that's what they did. That's how bad it is. So I guess, I guess even at the lower levels, when they run amok, when they begin to use their authority, overuse their authority or abuse their authority, I guess it's good that we have the appellate system. Maybe that's how it works. I've been practicing law 24 years. Maybe that's how it works. But the average person, the average citizen, doesn't see this, and they are not going to have the money to take up an appeal. which oftentimes can be twice as much as paying for a trial lawyer. So they'll never get that justice that a Donald Trump could get, or Bill Cosby could get, or a Sean Combs will get, because they can't afford it. So they'll rot away in jails. They'll have abusive judgments against them, and the judicial system takes an L. The problem is this: it is the judicial system that is the thread that holds society together. When people feel they can't get justice, then they take matters in their own hands. That's why we have a criminal justice system. That's why we often say if a person unalives somebody else, they get the death penalty or they get life in prison. So they lose the opportunity to exist in society and walk freely and do what they want to do for the rest of their life. Or after many, many years of appeals and so on and so forth, they get unalived in the form of the death penalty. That's the way we sanction them. And if we didn't have that system, or if people didn't feel that the punishment was suitable for the crime of taking their loved one or their friend, then they would take matters in their own hands. So what happens when people see that the people who are supposed to get justice for society are just prosecuting people because of their personal differences or their political differences or their ideological differences? They see abuse. And so they lose faith in the justice system. That's what's happened to Black Americans. And I want you white folks to listen to this. You wonder why Black people don't comply every time the cop says comply? Because we don't have faith in the justice system. This is the same legal system that said it was lawful to sell us and our bodies into slavery and keep us there in perpetuity. Our children, our children's children. This is why Black people don't have faith in the justice system. This is the same justice system that allowed white landowners or white townsfolk after the Civil War was over to steal our land. The same justice system that said we were 3/5 of human beings, that we shouldn't be allowed to vote. This is the same justice system you ask us to have faith in. And now you get some guy with a badge and a gun and a taser and a stick, and he tells you to comply. He represents that justice system. And you know, or you believe, that you're innocent. And the truth is, you are innocent until proven guilty. So in that police officer interacting with you, he doesn't treat you like an innocent person, especially if you're Black. He treats you like you're guilty. And couple that with all the history of our dealings with the justice system, the war on drugs, the crime bill from 1994, the crack bill from 1987, 88, that unlawfully, disproportionately targeted Black people. You can see why we don't have faith in the justice system. I'm not making excuses for people who commit crimes. I'm trying to help you understand the perspective. We feel the same way about the justice system as people who support Donald Trump feel about the justice system and what it's doing to him. You want to build some racial bridges? That's how we feel. You want to know how Black people feel? That's how we feel. We feel just like you do, saying, Donald, you love Donald Trump. You love him. Most of the states in the interior, they hate him on the left coast. They hate him on the west coast. But throughout the interior of America, for the most part, you empathize with Donald Trump. And the reason that Black people empathize with Donald Trump is because we've been there. We've been there and done that for centuries. We see him for what he's doing. He's being prosecuted and persecuted, and the justice system is being used against him by his political adversaries like it was used against us because we were undesirable. And I say this all the time. Black people, whether you believe this or not, whether you feel this way or not, we were never meant to be in this country indefinitely. There was never supposed to be a permanent group of Africans or Black people who were former slaves, who were descended from Africa. We were never supposed to be here. The only reason we ended up coming here is because between 1808 and 1860, they began to breed slaves at these breeding farms. That became big business in places like Virginia and Baltimore and South Carolina. And so our population blew up from 400,000 to 4 million in a little over 50 years. And that's the only reason you have such a large population of black Americans in the United States who are descended from the enslaved Africans. We were supposed to be worked to death, and because slavery for the most part was just a bunch of guys. They very rarely brought women to the United States before slavery was set to end in 1787. It was just a bunch of men. It was a black male endeavor. Bring them over here, work them to death. When they die, get some new ones. There's never supposed to be a permanent population. And all of that was legal. And so now, fast forward. With all that history, that unforgotten history. Remember, there were signs up that said, lawful signs in places like Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Arkansas, that said, coloreds over here, whites over here. This was legal. This is what the justice system did to us. And you expect us after one generation to see it as being fair. And you say it's not biased, but it is biased. And now you see how it could be whipped and turned to do an individual's bidding. And if it could be done to a billionaire ex-president who was world-renowned, one of the most powerful men in the world, imagine some poor black kid in Mississippi or Alabama or Florida in the Panhandle, or some poor old boy from Texas who gets drugged to his death by some guys in the back of a pickup truck. This is what we are. So the next time you hear, and I'm talking to the white folks, man, listen, man, we building bridges. The next time you hear a black man say, yeah, man, the justice system is not fair, I want you to recall what's happening to Donald Trump right now. See what's happening to Donald Trump. See what's happening to some of these other white folks, these 19 so-called co-conspirators with Donald Trump down in Georgia. Look at how the judicial system can be used. And if you look at the fact that Fonnie Willis, who clearly should have been dismissed from this case, wasn't, you can see now how the justice system bends over backwards to protect itself. You got a white judge, a black female prosecutor who has, in my opinion, based on what I see, purposely misled the court on some key facts, is still allowed to prosecute this man. So imagine it's 50 years ago. Hell, imagine it's 20 years ago. And you got an all-white jury and an all-white prosecutor and a prosecutor staff, and some little black boy has allegedly done something wrong. And they decide that they want to make an example out of this. They're going to use that justice system any way they want to get to achieve the goal that they want to achieve, and that's prosecution with the undesirables. But as things go, they experiment with the undesirables, and the next thing you know, they're going after the blue chip citizens, and that's what you see happening with Donald Trump.